UFC 312 is headlined by a rematch for the middleweight title. Champion Dricus du Plessis of South Africa comes up against the man he took the title from in Sean Strickland. Now, predictions have been split down the middle, and we've roped in professional MMA fighter and trainer Shana Power to give us a preview of this highly anticipated rematch. A very good morning to you, Shana. Thank you so much for joining us on Sports on Morning Live.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So let's start and speak about perhaps the last time that these two went up against each other, Dricus up against Strickland, and possibly just speak to how much you think they've both grown since their last fight.
So I think it's a different space that they're both in. The first time Sean was the champion, and Dricus was coming to obviously fight for the title, and that mentally is a different ball game. You know, one's defending, one's challenging. Now the roles are reversed. Dricus is defending and Sean's challenging him. So I think that in itself changes the dynamic in the cage. I think both men, you know, they had to have fixed their holes and grown in the last year. I think Dricus did exactly what he needed to do in the last fight to win. But yeah, I think Dricus has spoken about just kind of refining and being, you know, choosing his shots more, being more, using more precision, taking his time in the cage this time, but he definitely wants to finish it. So I think those would be the changes that Dricus has made.
And you look at Dricus du Plessis, I mean, he's a very unorthodox type of fighter, but also very versatile and is able to adjust in the fight as he needs to. Where do you think this game will possibly be won and lost?
So it's interesting, we spoke about Adesanya last time, but with Sean, I feel like they're both quite well-rounded fighters, so they're capable of going anywhere. You know, Dricus he's versatile, he's adaptable, he is, you know, he makes the necessary changes in the cage when needed. I think what needs to happen in this fight is it needs to be finished. I think that's the only difference or the different outcome that has to happen in this fight. So ultimately, I think Dricus can definitely submit Sean, or I think, you know, we need the knockout. So that's where the fight needs to go.
And from your point of view, I want you to take off any patriotic hat you may be wearing at the moment. Come the fight, the two men get into the cage. Which way do you see it going on the night, in the morning?
I think it's not about patriotic, to be honest. Dricus, you know, I think he's just showed up every single time he's fought. You know, I am looking at this as objectively as I can. There's fights where I thought, you know, Dricus, it was going to be tough fights for Dricus, but Dricus has just every single time shown that he is a world champion. So it's not about choosing one side or another side. It's just that I feel that Dricus is the better fighter, and I think that all comes down actually to his mentality in this fight. Dricus is prepared to die in there, and not many fighters are. Sean says he is, and I think, you know, for Sean to beat Dricus, I think he needs to knock Dricus out as well. So we're looking for that knockout punch. I don't think these men can leave it to decision. You know, so yeah, I just think Dricus is the better fighter. I just think he's been with Sean, he's been in the cage with Sean before, so he also has felt Sean out, he knows what to kind of expect. And like I said, the difference here is that he's not fighting for his first world title. You know, he's now defending it for the second time. I think beating Izzy as well has just only amplified his confidence in the cage. So I just think that there's a lot going for Dricus more than Sean. So this is very objective, my opinion, on Dricus kind of defending his title this weekend.
I mean, there's a lot going on for Sean in terms of talking, because the man can talk a lot. Now he just needs to put the action behind the talking. Let's speak on something you've touched on slightly there, just the mentality of Dricus going into this fight and how he's a mentally strong fighter. How important is that as an MMA fighter? I mean, you're an MMA fighter yourself and a trainer, to be in the right headspace and mentally just be in a good space to go into a fight of this magnitude against someone who's been talking so big, as we've seen Sean Strickland from the time that Dricus defended his title against Izzy, has been talking non-stop.
So being an MMA fighter and training, you know, and I think, you know, when you get to the UFC, everyone's got the best coach. Everyone has the best facilities. Everyone's got the best nutritionists, the best trainers, the recovery. You know, at that level, you have everything you need. So what is the deciding factor at that level? And for me, it all comes down to mentality. I mean, even if we talk about Dricus, I mean, a lot of people, they joke around his style or body style. You know, he's not this clinical kind of fighter, but it always comes down to his mentality. And for me, that is what wins fights, is how long can you stay engaged in that fight. I mean, when you've been hit really hard, when you've been close to being submitted, you take a lot of pain. We've seen Dricus, you know, endure all of that, but still manage to come out on top. So for me, the thing that Dricus has above all fighters is his mentality. That is the thing that wins fights. And for me, it is the most important part of competing. So I just think Dricus has kind of cracked the code when it comes to fighting, and especially in the mental game. And that's his advantage time and time again.
And we certainly hope that advantage is going to work for him this time around. And we were, of course, hoping for him to be able to defend his title in South Africa. But Shana, as I wrap up with you quickly, speak to me about what we can look forward to from the world of MMA in terms of upcoming talent. Anyone else that's in your sights that you think this could be our next Dricus du Plessis?
Locally, I mean, sure, we've... EFC is our local promotion. I think there are guys up and coming. There are a few fighters. You know, to be honest, there's a lot of local fighters that have made the UFC that are competing there and have competed. But I think someone that was really up there is Iga Cabeza. He's been, I think, a double champ, a long-time champ in the EFC. And I think he, you know, if there is a fighter that needs to cross over, it would be him. But the talent is really, really good here. And like I said, our local promotion here in South Africa, EFC, is definitely looking and scouting for talent all the time. So yeah, I mean, that would be my pick for now.
All right, Shana, thank you so much for your time as always. And we're looking forward to this fight. Have yourself a blessed weekend.
Thank you very much.
All right, that is, of course, Shana just speaking about Dricus du Plessis going into his title defense this weekend up against Sean Strickland. It's going to be a nice and early morning for many South Africans as we wait in anticipation to see whether or not Dricus will be able to successfully defend his title the third time around.